The Galactic Union Assembly Chamber buzzed with tension as alien voices clashed. Delegates from dozens of species argued, their holographic projections flickering against the massive dome. The crisis at hand was the Zalthor Dominion, a ruthless empire leaving scorched star systems in its wake. Many spoke with panic, others with bluster, but a recurring theme emerged: skepticism toward humanity. "They're too young, too reckless," scoffed an avian delegate with sleek, cobalt feathers. "What can one fledgling species contribute to this war?" "Rumors," another delegate, this one insectoid, added with a chittering laugh. "Whispers of their so-called unstoppable technology. Nothing more." In a corner of the chamber, a lone figure observed silently. Commander Lila Carter, humanity's representative, stood with the poise of someone accustomed to being underestimated. Her polished black uniform bore the emblem of Earth's fleet, a stark contrast to the elaborate ceremonial robes of the other delegates. She finally spoke, her voice slicing through the cacophony like a blade. "We've committed one ship to the defense of this galaxy," she stated, her tone calm yet unyielding. "That will suffice." The room erupted. Lila didn't flinch. She didn't need to justify herself, she let the weight of her words settle over the room. Behind the skepticism was fear, fear of the Zalthor and the unknown capabilities of humanity's fleet. In whispers and side glances, they discussed the UNS Resolute, the lone human ship. The Zalthor Dominion was no ordinary foe. Stories of their conquests were grim, entire civilizations razed, fleets torn apart with brutal efficiency. The Galactic Union was on its knees. Yet, the humans, newcomers to this interstellar alliance, had offered only one ship. Lila's gaze swept the assembly as alien leaders launched into lengthy speeches about strategy and unity, dismissing her proposal. She remained impassive, her expression unreadable. She understood their doubts. Humanity's history with the Union was brief, filled with misconceptions. To many, humans were impulsive, prone to overestimating their capabilities. But those who had worked closely with them knew differently. The Zalthor had analyzed the Union's fleets thoroughly. They saw strength in numbers, raw firepower, and rigid command structures. Humanity's ship didn't fit that mold. It wasn't a massive dreadnought bristling with visible weaponry. It was sleek, almost understated, and far smaller than the Union's warships. "What kind of ship hides behind stealth fields and deflectors?" one delegate had sneered. "Cowards!" Rumors about the Resolute spread like wildfire. Some whispered it was piloted entirely by a human-AI hybrid, an unheard-of concept among the Union. Others claimed its weapons were beyond comprehension, technologies designed to end battles before they even began. Skeptics dismissed the stories as bravado, humanity's attempt to mask its inability to field an armada. "Pointless," barked a reptilian general, scales rippling with irritation. "Against the Zalthor, a single ship is a pebble thrown at a mountain." Lila spoke again, her tone devoid of arrogance, but firm. "This isn't bravado. It's precision. And when the Resolute engages, you'll understand why one ship is all we need." Her words hung in the air, as unshakable as the woman who delivered them. For all the Union's doubts, Lila knew the truth: humanity didn't just survive through brute force. It thrived through adaptability, ingenuity, and an unyielding will to endure. One ship, in the right hands, was more than enough. The Galactic Union fleet drifted into position near the contested system of Althean Prime, its massive ships casting long shadows across the void. Arrayed before them, the Zalthor armada stretched like a dark tide, their ships bristling with weapons that gleamed ominously under distant starlight. The Union commanders, huddled in their respective war rooms, barked orders and adjusted formations. For all their coordination, unease rippled through their ranks. They were outnumbered, and everyone knew it. Among the Union's commanders, frustration mounted as they glanced at the UNS Resolute, a solitary dot hovering at the edge of the fleet. Its captain, Lila Carter, had yet to commit to the battle, and her silence gnawed at the nerves of her supposed allies. "She waits while we bleed," growled General Koresh, his reptilian features twisting in disdain. "What game is this human playing?" "She has no game," sneered an insectoid strategist. This is fear, plain and simple. From aboard the Resolute, Carter listened to their complaints through the comms, her expression calm as her crew silently awaited her command. On the bridge, holographic displays illuminated Athena, the ship's AI. Athena's voice, steady and precise, broke the silence. Union formations are faltering. Zalthor commanders are probing weaknesses. Lila nodded but made no move to engage. Let them. The Union's first wave began. Columns of ships surged forward, unleashing volleys of energy blasts that streaked across the expanse. The Zalthor armada absorbed the assault, their heavily shielded ships shrugging off the attack. They retaliated with brutal efficiency, splitting into coordinated groups to encircle their enemies. One by one, Union ships faltered, overwhelmed by superior numbers and tactics. The Union leaders turned their desperation toward Carter, their demands growing louder. Your ship can strike from stealth. Engage them now. Carter's voice remained calm, unshaken. We're observing. Observing? Koresh bellowed. Do you expect us to fight this alone? Engage, or we're finished. On the Resolute's bridge, Athena continued her analysis. Enemy movements suggest a coordinated effort to break the center. Probability of long-term Union survival without intervention, 22%. Carter didn't react to the grim projection. Her focus was fixed on the battle, eyes scanning the tactical display. They're too disciplined, she muttered. Predictable in their coordination. They don't expect deviation. The accusations of cowardice reached a crescendo, Union generals condemning humanity's supposed inaction. Carter simply closed the channel. The Zalthor, emboldened by the Union's faltering lines, identified the Resolute. Several of their warships began maneuvering toward it, sensing an easy target. As they approached, their targeting systems flickered, disrupted by the ship's advanced countermeasures. The Resolute remained motionless, as though inviting the challenge. Carter stood, hands clasped behind her back, her voice breaking the tension on the bridge. Let them come. Her crew exchanged glances, each understanding the stakes but trusting her implicitly. Athena's voice chimed again, now tinged with urgency. Multiple hostiles closing in. Proximity alert. Lila's lips curved into a faint smile. It's time they meet what they fear. The UNS Resolute seemed to dissolve into the void as its stealth systems activated, leaving no trace of its position on the Zalthor radars. Their targeting arrays flickered uselessly, unable to lock onto what they couldn't see. The alien fleet, accustomed to overwhelming their enemies with sheer force, hesitated, a crack in their otherwise impenetrable facade of confidence. Athena's voice broke through the silence on the Resolute's bridge. Stealth systems engaged. Hostile telemetry disrupted. Initiating surgical strikes. The ship moved like a phantom, unseen but felt. Its rail guns and pulse cannons fired in eerie precision, each shot bypassing shields and striking vital systems. One Zalthor battleship, bristling with heavy weaponry, detonated as its reactor was pierced. Another lost propulsion, spinning helplessly into the debris field. The attacks were so precise they seemed surgical, each one designed to neutralize rather than outright destroy, an art of war the Zalthor had never encountered. Athena's efficiency outpaced anything the Zalthor commanders could respond to. For every countermeasure they deployed, she calculated 10 ways to render it ineffective. The Resolute didn't just fight, it hunted. Target neutralized, Athena intoned. Next priority identified. The Zalthor fleet shifted tactics, abandoning their assault on the Union forces to focus entirely on this unseen threat. Their formations broke apart as they scrambled to locate the Resolute. They're overcommitting, Carter noted, her tone calm. Exactly as predicted. Realizing brute force wouldn't work, the Zalthor adapted. Swarms of smaller, nimble fighters deployed, each equipped with advanced scanning arrays. A barrage of energy beams and guided missiles flooded the area, forcing the Resolute into constant motion. Athena responded instantly. Enhanced evasive maneuvers initiated. The ship became a blur of acceleration and directional shifts, its propulsion systems far beyond anything the Zalthor could match. Automated point defense turrets sprang to life, intercepting incoming missiles with pinpoint accuracy. Still, the pressure mounted. Even with its technological edge, the Resolute was being pushed to its limits. On board the Union flagship, alien commanders watched the display in stunned silence. For all their doubts, humanity's capability was undeniable. The ship's speed, precision, and seamless AI integration defied their understanding of warfare. "They're adapting mid-battle," murmured one astonished observer. "It's as if they're reading the enemy's mind." "And winning," another whispered. Despite its dominance, the Resolute couldn't sustain this pace indefinitely. Carter's gaze swept the tactical display, noting the growing swarm of Zalthor's ships converging. Athena spoke. "Hostile reinforcements approaching. Sustained engagement probability of success, 38%. "That's too high," Carter replied with a wry smile. "Let's change the terrain." She ordered a course toward the nearby Trianes Nebula, a region of unstable plasma fields and electromagnetic storms. The Zalthor followed, determined to end the chase. Athena calculated the risk. "The nebula's volatile plasma will destabilize both shields and propulsion systems. Probability of catastrophic damage, 72%. And for the Zalthor?" "Higher," Athena replied after a moment. Carter's voice carried a confidence that silenced any doubt. "Good. Let's make it happen." The Resolute plunged into the nebula, its systems adapting to the chaotic environment. Explosions of plasma lit up the void like dying stars, forcing the pursuing Zalthor ships into disarray. Some detonated outright as they collided with unstable currents. Using the nebula's interference, the Resolute re-engaged stealth mode, disappearing once more. From the safety of the Union flagship, commanders watched in awe as the Zalthor fleet descended into chaos. "She's using the nebula to destroy them," one of them marveled. "She's not just fighting the Zalthor, she's outthinking them." The Resolute emerged from the far side of the nebula, battered but intact. The Zalthor fleet was in shambles, their formations broken and their numbers drastically reduced. Athena's report was succinct. "Zalthor fleet incapacitated. Remaining forces scattered. Probability of re-engagement minimal." Lila Carter stood at the center of her bridge, calm as ever. She turned to her crew, offering a rare smile. "Let them report what they've seen," she said. "It'll do the rest of the work for us." The Zalthor fleet surged into the roiling chaos of the Trianes Nebula, their ships illuminated by the vivid flashes of unstable plasma bursts. It was an environment no sane commander would willingly enter, but desperation drove them forward. The Resolute had become more than a target, it was a symbol of defiance they could not allow to stand. Athena's voice filled the Resolute's bridge, crisp and focused. "Hostile forces have entered the nebula. Calculations for plasma chain reactions complete. Execution requires precision timing." Commander Carter gave a single nod. "Execute." The Resolute sprang to life, maneuvering with impossible agility through the plasma fields. With each calculated strike, its weapons ignited dormant plasma pockets, setting off violent explosions that chained from one unstable zone to the next. The Zalthor ships were caught in the trap. One by one, they disintegrated in the brilliant, chaotic light of cascading detonations. "Athena," Carter said, her tone sharp. "Status report." 47% of the Zalthor fleet destroyed," Athena replied. "Collateral damage to Resolute minimal. Continuing operations." Carter's plan unfolded like clockwork, each move exploiting the Zalthor's aggressive pursuit. The fleet's numbers dwindled rapidly, their disciplined formations shattered by the unpredictable forces of the nebula. Yet the Resolute itself wasn't untouched, its shields flickered under the strain, and warning lights dotted the bridge. Athena offered another update. "Structural integrity at 78%. Plasma interference disrupting propulsion stability." "That's enough," Carter said. "We've done what we came to do." The surviving Zalthor ships, battered but not broken, regrouped outside the nebula. Their desperation was palpable. Though their numbers were decimated, their flagship, a gargantuan dreadnought, remained. It loomed over the remaining fleet like a dark promise of vengeance. The Zalthor launched a counterattack with everything they had left. Waves of fighters and long-range ordnance bore down on the Resolute, intent on finishing the fight. Carter watched their advance, her crew tense but steady. "Athena," Carter said, her voice calm despite the mounting pressure. "Prepare the antimatter cannon." The bridge fell silent. The cannon was humanity's most devastating weapon, its destructive power capable of turning a fleet to ash in moments. Using it was a last resort, but this was the moment it had been built for. "Antimatter cannon charging," Athena announced. "Estimated time to readiness, 45 seconds. The Resolute fought to buy time, its defenses holding back the Zalthor assault as the weapon powered up. Point defense systems intercepted incoming missiles, while precision railgun fire disabled advancing fighters. Each second felt like an eternity. "Cannon ready," Athena confirmed. Carter didn't hesitate. "Fire!" The bridge shuddered as the weapon discharged. A sphere of white-hot annihilation lanced forward, unerringly striking the Zalthor flagship. For a brief moment, it seemed to resist, but then, with a flash that outshone the stars, it disintegrated. The shockwave rippled through the void, obliterating the ships nearest to it and sending others tumbling out of formation. The Zalthor fleet broke. Without their flagship and leadership, the surviving ships turned and fled, abandoning the field in disarray. Carter leaned back in her chair, her voice steady as she issued her final orders. "Signal the Union. Let them know the Zalthor are in retreat. And prepare to assist the remaining fleets." On the Union flagship, stunned silence gave way to exhilaration. The sight of the Resolute single-handedly routing the Zalthor galvanized the remaining forces. Inspired, the Union rallied and pressed their advantage, pushing the fleeing Zalthor ships out of the system. Victory was declared, but for the crew of the Resolute, it was simply another battle won. Carter looked out at the wreckage-strewn expanse of space, her expression unreadable. "One ship," she said quietly, more to herself than anyone else. "That's all it takes." In the aftermath of the battle, the Galactic Union's War Council convened in an atmosphere markedly different from their previous meetings. Gone was the dismissive arrogance, replaced now with subdued respect and a touch of unease. The alien leaders reviewed the footage of the Resolute's performance with a mix of awe and disbelief. "To think," murmured General Koresh, his scaled brow furrowed. "A single ship did this." The insector delegate, who had once mocked humanity, now clicked their mandibles nervously. "It was more than the ship. Their commander, her mind is as sharp as their weapons." Carter, standing before the council, listened impassively. Accolades were poured over her tactics hailed as nothing short of genius. She responded with characteristic restraint. "The credit doesn't belong to me alone," she said firmly. "Athena was our guide, my crew were the hands that carried it out, and the Union fleets bought us the time we needed." Though her humility was genuine, the alien leaders couldn't ignore the implications. Humanity's entry into the Union, once seen as a token gesture, was now viewed in an entirely new light. The murmurs grew louder. What else could they be capable of? The Resolute itself limped back to a Union-repaired dock, its once pristine hull scarred from the battle. The cost of victory was laid bare as reports of casualties came in, names of crew members who hadn't made it home. Carter walked the halls of her ship, pausing at empty stations where once vibrant officers had served. On the main deck, with the remaining crew assembled, she addressed them. Her voice carried the weight of loss and the resilience of hope. "They gave everything so that others could live free," she said, her gaze steady. "Their sacrifice is a reminder of the price we pay for peace. We honor them not by grieving, but by continuing their fight, for every star, for every life, for every future." The crew stood in silence, their resolve solidified by her words. Despite their pain, they knew their mission wasn't over. As repairs began, the Union Council sent envoys to Earth, eager to learn more about this species they had underestimated. Humanity's ingenuity, adaptability, and sheer willpower had shifted the perception of their role in the galaxy. Once viewed as a minor player, they were now a force to be reckoned with. At a final debriefing with the Union's High Command, Carter delivered her parting words, her tone calm but charged with meaning. The Resolute was proof of what humanity can do when challenged. But you should understand, this was just one ship. She paused, letting the weight of her statement settle. Imagine, she said, a glint of determination in her eye, what we could do with a fleet. The council sat in stunned silence as Carter departed, her words a promise and a warning. Humanity's era in the galaxy had begun, and it was clear they would not be silent participants. They would lead. They would fight. And they would endure.